begin. So in the among the things we did yesterday, there are specific processes I want you to take note of while we are editing or modeling, creating models or creating designs. There are some key things. If you miss them, if you miss those things, those key points, yes, you might create models, but you will lose detailing in your models. You will lose some very key aspects. Like, first of all, one of the major things about creating 3D models or 2D models, 2D characters, is you have to have a picture of the elements that you want to employ first. Like, you want to make a cup. What primitive object or geometric object looks like a cup? Those kind of things. What can you use for blocking? If you carry a triangle or a prism and say you want to make a cup out of it, it doesn't make much sense. Say, okay, because there are cups that are slanting like this, but there is no cup that is that sharp at the end. It won't even stand, right? So you want to look at the most basic geometric shape that you can use and then work from there. Now, the cool thing about modeling is you can use any shape to create anything. I can even use a plane to bring out a cup. But the concept is what is easiest, what works faster. If we have to model this bottle now, looking at the bottle, what shape will I use to make this bottle? Like, yeah, thank you. You can use a cylinder. You can use a tube. Funny enough, you can even use a cube. You can even use a sphere. But there are a lot of things you will need to do on that cube or that sphere to make it look like this, right? But there are shapes that already look like that. They have that structure. So when dealing with modeling, that's the first thing to think about. Let's say we're building a human being, for instance. Um, I think since I'm recording, I think I should be drawing inside here. Which app should I use? Illustrator. Okay. So if you have to model a human being, it's like, okay, TJ draws, um, Alex draws that man behind in the hood draws. I don't know about you. Yeah, undecided. So let's see. I want to draw a human being. What shape would first fit the torso of a human being? Let's say I have to block out a human being's body with shapes now. So, okay, so to block out a human being, I will have like a rectangle, right? So for the torso, for the hip, what shape? For the hip, okay. So let's. Why you're telling me that's what I'm going to draw. So the artist tells me it's a circle. So for hip, okay. Then for the thighs, okay. So another option, triangle. So hip will be triangular, something close to that, right? Okay. So let's go around. So TJ said for the hips triangle, which I actually subscribe for because of the way the leggings will join together. So use a triangle. Sorry, I say rectangle. A triangle, probably rounded up at the corners like something close. Okay, then for the thighs and the other part of that, obviously a rectangle, right? Probably a rounded rectangle. So probably something like this, right? So let's just say, no, don't worry. It's just we're just blocking out stuff. So we have this two concepts like that. So we have this. So this will also be for the hands as well. So we have this for hands. Um, let me just reflect this. Reflect that. Okay, and then for the head, what will be the for the neck first? Neck will be what? Cylinder like, so rectangle like. Then the head will be what? Circle or something close to that. So with this concept, I can figure out, okay, this is the primary blocking of a character. But for the rectangle on the top side, I will need to have something like a taper on this side to make this place this way because of the way the body structure is. And then you make those adjustments. But the concept I'm trying to point out here is you need to figure out what shapes best suits what you're trying to create. Okay, in 3D modeling, that is like the most primary thing to focus on. I want to make a cup. What shapes make a cup? I want to create a table. What kind of table, first of all? Is it a hard edge table, that's square like table, rectangular table, or is it a rounded edge table? Or is it a triangular, whatever shape of table it is. So I'm thinking of the kind of objects that help to formulate that model I'm trying to create. Then, if I now pick, like we pick this cylinder now to make a cup. Let's say it's that bottle I'm trying to make. And these things I'm trying to point out now are the keys to helping you create seamless models. So please pay attention to them because they will help you at the end of the day. Right. So if this is my cylinder, and I want to make that bottle, the next thing I have to think about is looking at the picture of a bottle. Looking at the picture of a bottle, let me get, okay, um, Jason, come and copy out 3ds Max in here. Yeah, thank you. It's my life. Just copy it into your system. I'll come and install it. Should I use? Okay. Where is it? So I look at a bottle like this. Let's say this bottle is in. Let me put it in Illustrator. I think it should be better out there. I just made a very big mistake somewhere. Coca Cola. Right. So if you look at this bottle and let's say you want to model this bottle in 3D. The next thing I think about when I'm trying to model this bottle is if I'm using a cylinder, let's say this is my cylinder and I draw cylinder this way, right? And make it transparent so we can see the structure of the cylinder here. The next thing I want to think about is how many subdivisions do I need to put on the cylinder to be able to actually get this shape down? Like how many, all those line segments, how many do I need to get this shape? Because if I just create a cylinder like this that just has basically five sub five segments or five subdivisions, it's not going to be enough to get the shape of that bottle because the bottle has a lot of curves around it. So I'm thinking to myself how many subdivs I'm going to need to get that. So let's say um, for here, I need from this point, I need one here, I need one here, I need a smaller one here. Um, I should reduce it to thin. I need one here. Let me see, I need one here. So need one here, then need one here, need one here, I 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 need one here. So primarily, for blocking purposes, my cylinder has to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, at least between 8 and 11 divisions across like this. So I have to make that. It's best for you to do that before you convert the object for modeling. Once you convert the object for modeling, creating those lines now will be manual. You have to use line cutting tools to make those lines. But it's best if you just get the structure first, what we call blocking. So the basic segmenting you need for blocking, have them already structured in the object first before you go into the full-fledged modeling where you now, okay, convert it to polygons, start dragging on the edges and all those yada yada yada, all those stuff like that. Okay, so very important, not just making the object, but okay, what am I going to use this cylinder to create? Is it a cup? If it's a cup, why do I make, or let's say it is a cup that doesn't have handles, then I don't really need, the amount of segments is not really important. But if the cup that has handles, fine, I have to create a handle in the cup or a situation in the cup where I can extrude out the handles and still have spacing on top and at the bottom because um, I've not really seen a cup where the handle starts at the bottom and ends at the extreme top. I've not really seen cups like that. So there's always spacing from the handles between the top and the bottom. So you want to have segments that will enable you bring out or extrude out handles from the midsection of the object that you chose without damaging the whole structure, first of all. This is just for structural building. Like I said, you are trying to build a base mesh, right? Something that you can now modify later on. With this cup, now I can make different kinds of cups out of this particular cup that we did yesterday, using this as a base mesh because it has now given me a structure of a cup. I can now make a cup that is longer on the mouth or longer on the bottom or thinner on the handle or have a tinier handle or a longer handle or a fatter cup, whatever. As long as I have this base mesh, it's easy to do that. Okay, so what 3D modeling artists do is over time we end up just like how I talk about graphic design, like just be designing flyers, templates. If somebody comes to meet you for a job, you just pick one of your templates and offer the person instead of trying to start cracking your head all over again. Same thing with modeling. Have base meshes, a male character, a female character, a slim character, a fat character. Then if somebody says, okay, I want a muscular male character, you just take one of your base meshes and make it muscular. You want somebody fat, you make it fat. You want somebody small, you scale it down to a small. You want a child, you scale it till it looks like a child. It makes the modeling process easier than having to recreate a new model in every scenario. That can be very tasking because the most complex thing to design is a human character. The most complex part of the human character is the head. The most complex part of the head is the nose and the ear. That is how the structure is. Then for sculpting, it's the most complex place to get in sculpting too. It's still the head in the face side to get all those demarcations. Because if it's to get the chest, the stomach, all those are very easy, just line. But here requires a lot of constructs that connect different facial muscles. You are like an anatomic surgeon. You are trying, okay, you want to make models for the eyes. When you lift the eyebrow, it's not just the eyebrow that lifts, other parts of the face is twitch. So you have to make in the modeling a loop that if this one moves, it also moves these other ones that are moving, and it doesn't move these other ones that are not supposed to move, and on and on. So there's a whole lot of construct that goes on in designing just the human head. So why I'm saying all this is I'm going to teach you all those little things to take note of to make your modeling easy or easier. Otherwise, you could just end up like how uh, maybe all those funny looking or like what those guys that did in that competition. They just did one round circle, then used drawing to draw eye and mouth and nose, and the thing is just being like that. But that's not very professional. Okay, are we cool? So I'm going to run through this cup very quickly over again. The concept for this particular scene that we're going to be building different scenes that we will use our texturing, lighting, and cameras to work on. So as we have started now, we've already started building scene one. There are 4 scenes we're going to have. This one is just going to be like a room scene. We're going to have a building, a complete house, for architectural elevation. We're going to have a basic biped or character here. In Maya, we'll create a real full-fledged character and animation scene. And then we're going to create a prop, so yeah, probably a character, an automobile. It could be a car, it could be a boat, it could be a bike, it could be whatever. But just to give you guys an idea of how modeling is. And all this we are going to do in under 2 weeks. So you need to be very active, right? Has it entered? All right. So I thought you would come with a laptop. Let me just install it while I'm talking. Okay, so let me run this guy again. To build the who? It's not hard. I just need to turn off your antivirus first of all, because the Windows Defender knows how to find viruses from things that are not viruses. Then when it sees the real virus, it will not even notice. Which antivirus are you using? I think okay, 360. Yes, iClass. Higher class. Yeah. It's not even among the top 10. Yeah, let it record now. Sure. They will sue me. They should come and sue me now. I need to turn it off for a while. Do you know how to turn it off? Okay. You know the protection. Yeah. Let me. Oh, wait. Let me just keep it somewhere. I don't think it should be much of a problem. I'll start solving myself. Right. So let me install the 3ds Max first. Okay. So yesterday we created a cylinder. I didn't specify the. Oops, sorry. One minute. When yeah. So I didn't specify the, or I just used my head to think out a number. So I use for radius, I use millimeters. For radius, I use 500 mm. For height, I think I use 1, 2, thereabouts. So this is not the actual size of a cup. I just use something to at least get us started. So for modeling, one other thing you guys to use to help you in your process is use your grids to align your object so that it's easier for you to know when you're out of line with your design. So I like to centralize wherever I'm modeling in the grid, in the center of the grid, so that it's easy to monitor where it's coming from. So for my coordinates here, turn it all to zero, zeroed all of them out so that the um, the object is smack in the middle of the grid, right? So the x, the y, and the z are zeroed out, okay? And that was perfect for me to lift it up just a little bit here. Okay, so now we needed 5 divisions because if I'm going to be extruding out a handle, I want to extrude it from this loop and this loop so that there is space for the cup. Having 6 loops may not be very nice because then the cup will be larger either on top or at the bottom. So most times if you are bringing out something that is connected in 2 sections, you want to have an odd number in your segments. Okay, so after all this, the amount of sides doesn't really matter. We're just blocking out. If it's we can add a smoothing effect later or subdivision to it to smooth it out. So from here in 3ds Max, Maya you don't have to do this, but in 3ds Max we have to convert this to be something I can edit. So right click and convert it to an editable poly. We can use MERBs, mesh, NURBS, or patch, but polygons is the best way to create structural models or blocking. So I'm going to use polygons. And then I talked about the command panel, that whatever you're doing, observe what's happening in your command panel. That is the key for you. If you don't look here while you're modeling, you'll make a lot of mistakes. So the name is editable poly. I can change the name to, I can change the name to cup or whatever it is. Like this is cylinder O2. I can write mog2. And in my Scene Explorer, I have Mog 2. I think I should name this one Mog 1 as well. So where is this name? Right. So let's go Mog 1. Okay. So back to Mog 2. My disable poly, I can use vertices, edges, borders, polygons, elements. I can also select them from here if I don't want to collapse this wing. So let me use this ones. I want faces, that's polygon faces. Since this is the object here, I want to select this face. And I said in 3ds Max to select multiple objects is use control, not shift. It's control that is used to do multiple selections. And first thing I want to do is what? Yep. Mm. Click on the first side first now, before you click on the other side. Mm. So when you are now doing, we now need to extrude it out. So in your command line, we already have extrude right here. Um, if you click on extrude, the word, that's the button, extrude, you extrude manually, as in you just see the extrude tool, but you won't see a settings. So preferably you want to see those settings so you can control what you are. So we'll click on the box beside that so that the settings come out, right? This top one tells us to extrude a group or extrude them individually. When it extrudes a group, the objects are connected. They come out as one tool. But if you do each individually, then it comes out as separate tools. So sometimes when we are extruding, especially if it's a character trying to extrude the fingers, you will not group it. You bring it out as separate elements so that it can work separately. All right. So this one we're doing group. I can reduce the level of the extrude from here and just make 3 or 4 segments by clicking on the cross. Well, there's this cross here that helps you add to the extrude. So since I made the first extrusion, which stopped here, so adding it extrudes again. So makes it, so now I've done like 2 extra on top of the extrude to make 3 segments. Okay. Once you are okay, you just click on the yes, like accept. So next thing to do is to try and tilt this mouse because we want them to connect together to make a bridge. I want to use a bridge to connect them together. So I will select one because if you try to rotate both of them, they will go in the same angle. So let me show you an example. If I click on my rotate tool and I try to rotate them, the two of them will go in the same direction. So you have to pick one. So picking one, you can now rotate it along the axis that you are going, which is this straight axis. So you can rotate it, and I'm observing my left view to see the angle is bending to. So let's say I have 30, let's say on the x-axis 30, 30.5, then I leave it there. Then I select this next one. Then I do the same thing and I'm looking for 30.5 as well, so that it's closely related or at least close to themselves. So whether 30 or 30.5, so two of them are the same angle. So I'm observing my coordinates to see how I'm rotating it and what angles they are set. Now after that, I'm going to switch back to my selection tool by pressing Q or clicking on this tool. The reason is because as this guy is on, it might, if I wanted to select something within here, it might not allow me the Gizmo is blocking my view. So I'm switching to selection tool so that I can select this guy. So control select. With the two faces selected, I can now use a bridge. I'm going to explain how bridges work. Bridges basically connect faces or edges. It closes them up. So you can't bridge vertices. You bridge faces or you bridge edges. So it just closes up that gap by sealing them, making an external um, or a projected surface to connect the space between them. So like these handles now, the bridge will project something from here and merge it to the one that's here. So you can now just click on bridge. So I'll click on the settings as well. And I now said you have some 6 settings here in your bridges. This one is for the amount of segments, divisions you will have. This is for the taper of your bridge. That's in case you want the bridge to tilt this way or this way, like a V. Then these ones have to do with the bias, basically like whether it's leaning more on one side or it has more influence on the maybe on the left side and on the right side or stuff based on balancing. That's what bias has to do with. And then we have the twists. So right now I've bridged, but my the heads are twisted. They are they're not straight. So you can come and untwist from here by stepping down till it straightens out. So for this particular model, -2 got me a good bridge. It's not every time I will do that. Sometimes you bridge and it will work perfectly. The reason why it will work perfectly or twist is based on the polygon normals, the way the objects are facing. And I will explain what polygon normals is in another class. Polygon normals or vertex normals is generally just following the direction of the vertex or the face, that is the right facing direction. So every polygon or vertex has a right facing direction, like the direction of the axis. So if you create a model that is facing the wrong direction, it will model the object backwards rather than forward, and to give you an error in your design. Okay, so this is okay. I'll just add one segment in the middle there so that I can bring out this place as well. And then I accept that. So now this guy is connected, but the handle doesn't look well. So I said to modify your models, you would use the smallest part of a model, which is a vertex, right? That's the best way to modify a model. So select vertices. I want to modify this too. I don't want it to be straight. I want it to be kind of round. So I select this two, making sure that back face here is turned off. When back face is turned off, I'm selecting on one side, but it's also selecting the back of the object. If I turn this one on and I do that selection again, let me click out. So if I do, let's say, uh, occluded, okay, right. So if I select this place now, these 4 places, let me just show you what blackface can do. If I rotate around this, if I rotate around this guy, you notice that it's not selected at the back because back face here is telling you that, okay, don't select anything at behind, just select what my camera is seeing. So when you're making selections that you want to pick the back of the object, you want to make sure this guy is turned off, because now when I rotate it, you will see that it's also selected the points at the back. of it. So that's what back face does. So for this, at once back face turned off, I select this, I use the scale tool and I drag up on the y-axis to increase the size. Then I switch back to Q, select this, then R, I take this one up as well. Then I switch back, select these ones. I can scale them downwards or remove them forward. Okay, then I switch back, I select this one, I scale them downwards and move forward. Then I pick just this one and move it forward to give me that round. Um, let me pick two. Let me pick this two like this to give me that roundish kind of feel on the cup there. So you can just tweak it to your heart's content. There's no law that says it must be a certain way. You can tweak it to your heart's content. And with this, I'm okay with the handle because any other thing I want to do with the handle, any other thing I want to do with the handle will require me to use um, modifiers, which I'll show us how to use them now. Okay, so that was basically what um, we did here. Now, see, I forgot to put something, and I want to show you how that can be a problem. Now, I did not create a cap for this cup. I forgot to put it because I was talking and I forgot to create the cap. That is the problem because now how will I now create the hole inside? So we, like I said, you always want to make sure that everything that you need to do for blocking is set before you start blocking. So you can always find a way around it, but it's better not to play around. So for now, I don't have this cap. So what I'll just do is switch to polygon faces, select that face, and I want to do an inset. So right click on this and create an inset that will create that opening for me. So let's say just to create that loop for me since I didn't have it already. It's because it's necessary. I need it for what I'm about to do. And then I can now extrude and observe from this view the direction when it gets to the point I need. Okay. And then I can accept that. I can scale or I can leave the cup the way it is. Then for extra detailing, I pick vertices and I want to kind of connect those faces, but no need. Let me just play around like that. So far, I have my cup just the same way we did. If I need to make more adjustments, maybe like on this loop now, the um, mouth of the cup is looking too flat, you will want to do something like a chamfer or a bevel quote. So you want to select this top views, this or this loop like this. So you could create a loop selection and you could grow it or you could make a right click using one of your um, quad menus and then choosing something from this. But let me not create the loop. Let me show you what can be done with this guy. So now this cup is set. It's not looking very copy. There's English like that. It's not looking very copy. So, but it's set for modification. There are some modifiers that we have in 3ds Max that enable your model to look nice. One of them, like the one I want to show now, is called a turbo smooth. What it does is it smoothens out your existing geometry. So it smoothens out the blockages by subdividing the patches and making them smooth. So we find a modifier list by clicking this place that have modifier list here. You click on modifier list, can start typing the word turbo. When you start typing T, you see all the T options here. So what I was looking for is turbo smooth. And now I've applied the turbo smooth over the model and it's smoothing out the uh, sharp edges around the object. So what I'm going to teach about modifiers. I'm just trying to show you how this corpse is going to look like. So let me undo that. Let me carry this guy to and bring him back in here. Okay. So observe that in this list channel, we first have the editable poly. That's how this object is. Then once I add the turbo smooth to the object, it comes on top of the object, meaning it's affecting the one down. Like in Photoshop or other objects, whatever is on top will affect whatever is beneath based on the stacking order, right? So the turbo smooth is now smoothing this polygon. Do you understand? So turbo smooth is now smoothing this guy. So that's how the list works. And you see this, if you look at this bottom here, there's this green guy here. This button is showing show end result. I can add a turbo smooth and click on this to on this editable poly, and it will, as far as it's off, I won't see the effect of the turbo smooth, even though the turbo smooth is there. So I might do that just so that I can edit the cup more. Maybe there's an issue with the cup. But if you turn it on, it will show you the turbo smooth, even though the turbo smooth is not selected. It will just show you that, okay, this guy's, the modifier is affecting this object. So this is show end result. So without it, you can still go back and make adjustment. Okay, so that's by the way. So this is what we are going to do today. Oh, I didn't mean that. Okay, sorry. Let me get this guy up. I want us to create a scene with these guys by making copies of this cup and placing them around themselves, like a stack of cups on the plane or on the floor, on the table, or wherever. Okay, so we're going to we're going to make duplicates of the object by holding down shift and dragging the object, and then we'll get this dialog opened up. So you can determine how many copies you want to make, whether you're making copies, instances, or references. So let me explain the three of them. If you are cloning an object or making a duplicate of an object, why is this thing taking so much time to fish out? Anyway, when you make a copy of an object, the if you affect the original, it doesn't affect the copy. If you affect the copy, it doesn't affect the original. So like maybe change materials or modify it, it doesn't really affect the original. If you make an instance is a real clone. So if you do something on the original, it will affect the instance. So then same thing with references. Since our references are kind of closely related, there's a I will have a class where I will actually use the three of them and show them. But I'm just trying to let you know what we want to do here now in this scene. So for this scene, we just want to make copies. We don't want the instances, just want to make copies so that we can style them differently and they work well. So what I want you guys to do is make 10 copies of your cup. Make sure it's copies. Click OK. It will make 10 copies along the line. When you make your 10 copies, I want you to use your creativity. Some of the cups should be upside down. Some of the cups should be rounded up. Some of the cups should be fallen to the side. Some of the cups should be stacked on top of the other. So we're going to do that with our scale, our move and rotate tools. So when you select like now, for instance, and also be on this view, there's something I want. Okay, let me show you that thing before you kick off with your exercise. Let me show you that thing. So let me undo what I just did now. I have one cup here. Okay. Let me talk about navigating around our scene. I think, I don't know whether I did this in AutoCAD. I know in AutoCAD it was kind of a drag, but let me explain it here. Let me get this guys back to 0. So far, all I've said, have we understood it? Hmm? Is there any question from what I've said so far before I move on? I'm going to do that one again. So. Yeah, I deleted, I deleted it. So, okay. Now let's see our navigation. All right. Let's see navigation in the scene. Uh, Understanding how to navigate your objects in your scene, not just your viewports alone, is also very key in your design. So we'll start with the move tool. The move tool has a uniqueness to it or a unique shape to it. It's shaped like a triangle with a line or like it's shaped like an arrow, yeah, with a pointed head. Okay. And then we have something else in the tool that's like two connected lines kind of creating a square like shape, this kind of square like shape here. Now, wherever your object is facing, we have we talked about um, the Cartesian coordinates, which has the XYZ with Z is pointing up, and it's very similar to what we had in AutoCAD. When you have your object on your scene, by default, it is facing that it is honoring that Cartesian coordinate. If we want to change anything about the coordinate, like based on world view or based on object view, doesn't let the thing behave based on how the object is or how the world is, you can change that coordinates under here where we have view. We have view, screen, world, parent, local, gimbal, grid, working. That is, you can basically change how these guys operate on your object. For instance, If I rotate this guy now, okay, and switch back to this, you notice the arrows are still pointing straight, like if nothing happened. That's the world view. Based on this, it's always going to be up. So if you like, let the object face like this, it's going to be up. What will help this view is if you turn it to your local view, so that it is the arrows or the coordinates are based on how the object is lying down or in your scene. This is what is best for an creating of animations, because then the software can easily read your movements, and you self that is animating can tell what you mean. But if I was moving this object sideways and the arrow is pointing somewhere else, it can even be confusing to me. Okay, so that's what most of these views do. So this is world view. That's the same thing with the view. Screen view is based on how I'm looking at the object. So I'm looking at the object like this. So the z-axis is pointing towards me. If I, you understand? So you can see anyhow I'm turning, the arrow keeps following me, like based on how I'm seeing the view, it's following me. So that's screen. So based on your screen, what are you seeing? So that's how it coordinates that. So we'll work on them as we're creating our models, but it's just important to understand what they are doing to your viewport. So let me just go back to view. Okay, and let me undo this. Okay, so back to our movement stuff. The presence of the arrows, this guy, what did I call this guy in AutoCAD? I gave it a name. No, I didn't give it a name. I called it a name. There's a name they gave it. What? Can you remember the name of this thing? This one, not this one now. This one that is showing here. Whether this one or this one or this one, there's a name they call this thing. I gave you guys that name. Can I remember the name? Yeah, that, yeah. It's called a gizmo. The gizmo. Anytime you hear the name gizmo, we're talking about these things. It's not this one. This is not a gizmo. This is just your axis handle showing you based your Cartesian rule. This is your gizmo. So gizmos are these direction handles that help you rotate, scale, or move your object based on an axis. So whatever axis you are that is active will be color yellow. But basically, it uses the colors of digital space. That's red, green, blue. So red being X, green being Y, and blue being Z. But yellow, whenever you see anything turn yellow, it means that is the active axis at that moment. So on the red, if you move on the red axis, the object is only going to move in the red direction. No matter how hard you try, it will always move in the red direction, positive or negative. Now, Amir, you're talking to yourself. Are you following? All right. This is our orthographic views, this four, and this is our perspective view. This is top view, right? Representing whatever axis is facing up based on 3ds Max. Now that will be the z-axis. So it's like I'm standing on top of the object and looking down at the object. This is my front view. So I'm standing in front of the object. So based on 3ds Max, that's the y axis. So I'm here on the y plane. Here I'm on the z plane. And here I'm on the x plane, that is, I'm standing beside the object, to the right of the object. That's that's my own right, or the object's left. So I'm on this side here, this positive side. That is this side here, looking at the object. So notice something. If I am moving in the red axis, the plane where the cup is doesn't show any sign of scaling or distance. It's just steady. Like it doesn't know what you're doing. It's like, just why are you doing it? You're wasting your time. So that's because when we started training, I thought I'd talk about orthographic views and say orthographic views have no way of showing distance. So if I'm on that view, I can't determine distance. That's why it's a 2D view. It can only show up, down, left, right movements, but it cannot show depth. So that means it can't determine distance. If I click on the blue arrow, the object will move only on the z-axis. But then if you look at the top view, which is the z-plane, nothing is happening. So you cannot tell whether it is in front, on top, or behind, or anything. Same thing with the y-axis. If I move it on the front plane, nothing is happening. But the object is only moving in the y plane. So that's the essence of those arrows. They move in one axis at a time. If you have to move an object, make sure you are moving in a particular axis if you use the arrows. The second one is the planes, the axis planes. When you see the two arrows connected by, let me go back to Illustrator so that I can actually draw it. I want to be drawing so that these things can be recorded because the screen doesn't record that. So if I have two lines like this, Illustrator, let me just give the arrowhead to one line. Let me just do this. Okay. So let's say this is a this is green, right? And this is red. So we have green and red. Then we have something like this. That connects the two of them, right? Like how we are seeing here. There's a very faint line. You can't really, you may not really see it. Let me turn this guy to default shading. So you see the line here. That's those two lines here. If you hover into the line, it turns both the green and the red yellow. It turns yellow, but both the green and the red also turn yellow, showing that it's an axis. It's working on the two of them. It's moving in those two directions. Now, if you want to walk in two directions at the same time, or you want to move at a plane, these things we call them axis planes. Meaning, if I select, where were you? Oh, wireframe. If I select the green and the red axis plane, right? Or let me say the blue and the red now. That is this axis. You can see that is the one that is yellow now. This one. What that means is I can move this object along the blue and along the red, but not along the green axis. So basically what it's saying, just like when we talked about planes in Illustrator, I said we have uh, x-axis, Abby, we have y-axis, and we have the z-axis, right? Abby? Then I now said we have planes. So we have the x-plane, we have the y-plane, and we have the z-plane. So how do we know when we are on the x-plane or on the y-plane or the z-plane? The x-plane comprises of the z and the y. The y-plane comprises of the x and the z. And the z-plane comprises of what? The x and the y. So what this means is if I am moving along the z and the y axis at the same time, I'm on the x plane. If I'm moving along the x and z axis, I'm on the y plane. If I'm on the x and y. So basically, you are on a plane once you don't see the alphabet or the letter of the alphabet within the selected arrows. So that's how you know a plane. So like right now, if I speak here, the selected um, the selected angle here, the highlighted is blue and red. So which axis is missing? The green is missing. That's the y. Good. So that means no matter how I move on the perspective view, as long as I'm on that plane, no matter how I move on the perspective view, it looks like I'm moving in every direction, right? But in my y-axis, nothing is happening. So let's look at this. If it's y-axis movement, this cup will be able to move left and right. Here, the cup will be able to move up and down. But as far as I'm here, no matter what happens, it will never move left and right on the left view. It will never move up and down on the top view. No matter how I scatter this thing like this, it will never move in that because it's constrained to move in only two planes or two axes at a time. Same way if I picked this one, the green and the blue. When I pick the green and the blue, which color is missing? Red, right? Where do we have red? On top here. So that means no matter how I move, the top cups will not move left or right. So no matter how I move, on my perspective view, it can trick me to feel like I'm moving in every direction. But yeah, like if you are doing the right thing. But nothing is happening on that axis. Okay. Same thing with the last axis, which is the y-axis, the green and the red. So if I move in that direction, it will move everywhere except where the other one is. So the blue will never move. It will never move up and down. So why is this important? Most times for placing of objects in your scene, the best way to do it is to move in a plane. It will make you place your object very fast within the elements in your scene using the planes. If you want to move your object in every direction now, which is not advisable because it can make you not place correctly, is to click in the middle where the lines meet. That is that square there. You click in that middle, you can move in every direction at the same time. So everywhere it will move. To move up, it will move down, to move left, to move right, to move in every direction. But that is not a smart way to move in 3D. It will not help you place. Okay? Did we catch that? That thing, as small as it is, can make you mess up in your whole animation or placement if you've ever created an environment before. Just that thing can make things scatter in your scene. So very important to observe that. That's the move tool. The rotate tool, very similar. I talked about how rotation works in our previous class in 3D basics. The way the rings are, the rings show the colors of the axes. So yellow is the active axis, right? Yellow is the active axis. So, but based on the way axes are, rotation doesn't work the way the arrows do because for now, you can see X is pointing this way, but the X ring is not pointing that way. It's facing that way. It's pointing somewhere else. The way the rotation works, it works similar to how the planes work. So imagining if this is my Y and it is standing on this table, the rotation of y means that I'll just be rolling the pen in the direction that is pointing. That is rotation on that axis. So wherever the rotation of an axis is, it means how the axis, where the axis is facing, you're just turning, making a circle around it. It's not, you're not flipping the arrow. The arrow is just spinning on the spot. So rotating around the x is rotating facing the x-axis. This is our x, right? The left view. Are we? This is the x now. So you can see it from here. Is the color that is not lined up here. So rotating on the x-axis, the cup will rotate in the x view. Rotating on the z-axis, the cup will rotate in the top view. And rotating on the y-axis, the cup will rotate in this view. So very tricky. Then if you click inside of the rings, if you mistakenly out of impatience click inside the rings, you didn't click on the rings themselves, you will rotate freely, abysmally. Abysmal as in without direction. Abysmally. Abysmally as in it's void. That's the first one. Interesting. Okay. If you rotate in the outer ring here, it will rotate based on the view, how you are seeing. Not abysmally now, but in the view, the way you are seeing the object. Now for scale, scale is similar to move, the move tool. You is not arrows, rather it's squares or cubes. So dragging on one of the lines will scale the object only in that axis, in one axis per time. You want to scale along a plane, you use these belts that connect the two lines, or there is it's still the axis planes, but it's not a square, it's more like a belt. So it will now scale on two axes at a time. Then clicking in the middle triangle will scale in every direction at a time. The scale has different ways it works. If you click on the scale menu and hold it down, you will see there are different ways the scale works. So this is the original one, the scaling based on the object. This one scales a non-uniform scale. So it allows you scale on a particular kind of weird matter. Definitely. Let me not even go there. So let me just skip this guy first. Let me not bore you guys with that one. So now we want to orbit this guy, place this guy in different parts of our scene. We want to create a scene of cups, falling cups. It's a very nice 3D scene to have cups around, different kinds, ceramic cup, wooden cup, aluminum cups, different colors, cups with things inside, cups without things inside, bottles. So first thing I want us to do is take this plain object here and use it to draw on the top view, draw a plane. Okay. Draw a plane across. So that forms like the floor level. You can rename it on your modifier band, call it the floor. Then I now want you to freeze it. There's something called freezing. I talked about it when we did a long time ago, Chef. In fact, Photoshop and Illustrator, how to freeze a layer. But here, this is where we will need it. Now imagine trying to move this cup now and I mistakenly do like this. it will select the plane, right? And now the plane will move out of place. So I want to freeze the plane so that it doesn't move. It remains there, but I can still see it. Okay, I want to still be able to see it, but I don't want it to be able to be moved. By the way, I don't like the color of the plane. Looking that green is weird. So this is the layer, the color of the layer that the plane is. You want to change the color of your layer, just click on this color point here and give it a color. So let me use something different. That's not a material, it's just the color of the layer, just like we had in AutoCAD, just to give your layer a color. In your Scene Explorer, this snowflake here, that's the freeze button. You can click on it to freeze the object. Or if you don't want to click on it, you can right click on the object to bring out your quad menu, and then you have freeze selection to freeze the object. So either way you do it, either you freeze it from quad menu or you click here. So that one, you just freeze it. Once the object is frozen, you can't select it, cannot pick it up. So we know that we have the floor now. So what I want you us to do is duplicate our cups, and then with the arrangement patterns we just talked about, movement and stuff, I want you to place them around themselves. Create a scene of chaos. There's no order, it's chaos, but let them be on the plane. Some of the cups should be lying down, some of the cups should be standing, some of the cups should be toppled over, whatever. But the cups should be leaning on themselves, some of the cups should be standing on themselves. Yep, yep. Big enough. Big enough. No, not big enough. But I want to create chaos, so have enough space to create your chaos on. Remember to copy your or to clone your object, hold shift and drag it in any axis, and then specify copy. So like hold shift and drag, then make sure it's on copy, specify how many copies you want. We want 10 copies so that there are 11 mugs in the scene. Click that. Then use what we just learned about placement to place the mugs. To move them to be still flat on the plane is to use the plane here, this one that will move the objects without lifting it off of the floor. So using this guy, so that's why I said using what we just learned of movement, pick the cups. Then for the ones that you want to stack on top of each other, you can bring it maybe to themselves like this, and then use the where are me where are me that me have use this die to stack it up like this. Shift. No, it's not. It's not Illustrator. Yeah. So right. So create chaos, a scene of chaos. Rotates the objects. Let's see, minus 90 will be fine. And bring it up. It's almost done, Jason. Don't worry. So create your chaos. Let's have some fun. Okay. So when you guys finish creating your scene, you can save it. We'll stop there for today. Tomorrow we'll do something else. So save it as we are going to visit this scene later for um, lighting and camera work and texturing. So save it. The name you can remember.